This is the primordial stew. Under the distant stars, our ancestors enjoyed the primordial stew. The animals the men hunted and the tubers the women gathered were brought into holy union upon our ancestors' fires. Pair this stew with some freshly baked French bread with some butter, and you've taken this food of tribesmen and elevated it to a food fit for kings. So what do you need? You need carrots, celery, mushrooms, chicken stock, 2 big onions, tomato sauce. I've already poured it out. Next you need potatoes, you need a clove of garlic, then you need pepper, you need salt, this king size cut of meat. This is a chuck roast, and a chuck roast is an off cut of meat. It's cheap and inexpensive because it has a lot of connective tissue and cartilage, which actually is nutritious, but most people don't know how to prep it. So that's what I'm going to show you in this video. And finally, the mystery ingredient is some cheap red wine. Cheaper the better. Like I'm talking like literally $5. And this is the ingredient spread. If this seems like a lot of ingredients to you, well, first thing I want to say is anything that's good and worth it takes effort to build, so don't be afraid of effort. Second thing, it's not even that much effort because once you just cut up these vegetables, it's all just a matter of taking it, dumping it in the crock pot, and then forgetting about it for like 8 hours. Third, none of these ingredients are expensive or difficult to find. They're all available in every single grocery store. It's also available in Costco, so you can get them for bulk price. Before we prepare the vegetables, we're going to take the meat, turn the crock pot to high, and dump the meat in there so that it starts its process of cooking and getting a sear. So that when we actually put the stew ingredients in and the broth in, you have this, how do you describe the flavor of a sear? Caramelized meat flavor that makes the meat and the stew more hearty, more rich, and just tastes amazing overall. Step 1 is to peel the carrots, and then you'll dice them. Next up, we got the 2 onions. So fun fact about onions and crying when you cut them. The sharper your knife is, the less you cry. Obviously, I'm crying my eyes out, so this knife needs to be sharpened. And the reason is, if you have a knife that needs to be sharpened, so this kind of dull, you open up more of the cells of the onion as you're cutting it. So you release more of the chemicals which vaporize and cause that sensation in your eye which makes you cry. Once you have your mushrooms washed, you want to cut them into fourths. So that's just 1 and 2. For the potatoes, you're going to choose these small baby potatoes and you cut them in 4s. So 1 and 2. Next we got 6 sticks of celery, maybe a little bit more than that. There we go. I don't know what this house up with this guy. Yeah. Gang signs. And then we need a thing of garlic. A garlic a day keeps the vampires away.
Hi, I'm Marlon. Cal has just finished prepping the vegetables. What we're going to do next is make something called a mirepoix, which is basically a fancy French term for sauteed celery, onions, and carrots. So the first step is you're going to want to get some good quality butter. So here's a little trick. If you just take a bit of the onion and you put it onto the butter, all you have to do is wait until that little piece of onion is sizzling before adding in the rest of the onions and the rest of the ingredients. That's when you know that the pans are hot enough to accommodate the vegetables and to cook them properly. That onion is starting to sizzle, and so when you hear that sizzling, you could begin to add in the rest of the onions. So yeah, just giving them a little mix like this, a little saute, just to make sure that all the surfaces are getting to meet the bottom of the pan. At this stage, we call for reinforcements, we call for backup, and that's when the celery and carrot enter the scene. And you want to do this when the onions are starting to become slightly transparent, a little yellowed. You can see some caramelization here. So this is starting to look good. It has a nice sort of golden brown color to it, especially the onions. So we're going to lower the temperature on this one. This pan is doing very well. This one, on the other hand, is misbehaving. Cursed pan. So at this stage, you're going to want to add in the crushed diced garlic. So yeah, what the garlic is going to do is it's going to make the vegetables smell amazing. The mirepoix is going to smell great. So just go ahead and fry that up. We're almost done with the mirepoix. So we finished up with the vegetables, the celery, onions, and carrots, and we put those into bowls separately on the side, just so that we can cook the mushrooms next. And the mushrooms are really easy. It's just a question of, again, getting out your high quality butter, tossing that in a medium-high pan, so we could add mushrooms in there. And these mushrooms, you'll know they're ready when they basically shrink like crazy. They'll be like half the size of what they are right now. And now I'll present to you an esoteric technique involving the broth and the pan. All this like golden brown, all this butter that is cooked here, if we would just wash it, we're leaving all that flavor, you know, in the sink and not in our food where it's supposed to be. So a cool trick for that is to just take a little bit of your chicken broth, not much, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. And what you're going to do is you're going to use it to deglaze the caramelized flavor at the bottom. So you give it a bit of a scrape, kind of like you're washing the pan, but with chicken broth. After we've sufficiently scraped the flavor out of this bowl, we're going to add it into the broth. Looking very good and smelling very buttery.
Where did the rest of the mushrooms go?
The rest of the mushrooms?
Oh, is that all of them?
Yeah, it's all of them. They shrank.
Oh.
Everything is going to come together in the next few moments.
This biscuit has been on high heat for the past hour or so as we've been prepping the vegetables. So you can see it's already started cooking, and all the liquid you see, we did not add that. That's just the fat that's getting rendered out of the meat. Close that. And the good thing about the potatoes is they needed no prep. They're good to go as is. After slicing them, they're good to go. So we add them. If you're doing red meat, you want to use chicken broth. If you're doing chicken, you have to use red meat broth of some kind, so beef broth usually. And the reason is because red meat is already meaty. So if you add beef broth to it, it's going to become too much, to the point at which it loses its lightness and freshness. If you're using chicken, then you want a little bit of meaty flavor into it, so you'd use beef broth. So always pair red meat with chicken stock and chicken with beef broth. So I'm going to add in the whole, 4 cups of chicken broth. At this point, we want to add 2 cups of tomato sauce. You don't even have to make them. You can just buy a canned tomato sauce. Obviously, if you do make it yourself, then that's awesome. But sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So now what we have to do is add red wine. Just go for the cheapest one. It doesn't matter what red wine you use. This is just the Costco brand. And we're going to do approximately 2 cups. We're going to see how much fits in. And hey, whatever doesn't fit in, it's going down the hatch. There we go. We're also going to add some spices, some shakes of salt, some smoked paprika, ground pepper. Then we have the medieval sauce, whose name I shall not pronounce, and Italian seasoning. Again, a random, unspecified amount which looks right to you. So we just decided to run it on low for the entire night. And this is the great thing about crock pots, is that you can't overcook anything in a crock pot. So you can absolutely safely leave your crock pot running at night. In fact, a great tip is do all your meal prep, like put all the vegetables, the sauces, the meat and everything, the broth in the crock pot, and start it at night, and in the morning you're going to wake up to a meal already prepared. This is the easiest part. So let's see what we have here. This is the stew after a night of cooking. The meat's falling apart, which means it's cooked. The stew is nice and rich with all the fat and collagen and protein from that meat. The carrots and potatoes still retain their rigidity and shape, but there we go. It's the smell though. That's what's hard to describe in a video. In a video, you don't really get the full experience because you can smell. It smells like if you walk into the kitchen room in a castle in medieval times. You can imagine on one side they have bread baking. You can imagine on the other side there's this big hog which is roasting under the fire. And then some old cooks, they're making this broth. They're chopping up onions and carrots and whatnot. They're making a stew. That's what I imagine when I'm making this stew. That's what it feels like. Me and Marlon have been working since the morning. We're tired, we're hungry, and this is gonna be a wonderful experience. So this is what we're left with. A nice, beautiful, meaty broth fit for kings. So I'm gonna go ahead and plate this. Grab this big old hunk of meat. By the way, you don't want to scratch up your ceramics, so I'm going to be careful not to let the stainless steel touch the surfaces of the ceramic. Let's see, let me get some potatoes, some carrots. That's beautiful. To enjoy a good stew, you need some good old-fashioned bread. I have this Dutch bread with me. Now I don't have a bread knife, I wish I did. That would go through this much easier, but sometimes you gotta make do with what you have. And there we have it. Soft bread with a crunchy exterior with a savory, meaty stew. That's gonna be an awesome meal. So let's see how this tastes. First, we gotta just taste the stew itself. Soak it in some bread. Let's see, look at that. So rich. So let's taste what the meat tastes like. Let's get meat, maybe a little bit of carrot, and a little bit of the stew. You're gonna watch me burn my mouth. The carrot is nice and sweet. The meat just breaks apart and it's so easy to chew. It tastes nurturing. And if you prepare this for somebody else, they can't help but feel cared for or even loved. And with that, I wish you the most beautiful life possible, and I recommend you try out the Primordial stew.